Hey, I'm Matt Hudgens, and he's Dave Mulvaney, and this is Profitability MD. Dave, how you doing today, buddy?
Matt, I'm doing good. This is episode 50, and we have a special guest today, Rusty Ryal, and I'll introduce give a little intro on Rusty here. Rusty, good to have you on Profitability MD.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to speaking to your audience and blasting them with Major League wisdom.
That's
Rusty, right. Give us the background, Dave.
I will. Oklahoma State University Cowboys. Is that correct? The Cowboys? Is that
Go Pokes? That's right.
Used to be Oklahoma A&M for those of you trivia buffs out there. But Rusty is he played for the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's probably his favorite statement he heard at one point in August of 2009 was, "Rusty, you're going to the show, right?" Red
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are good words to hear coming up. So Rusty is a StoryBrand copywriter, certified by StoryBrand, current Ray Edwards International certified copywriter, which as I am as well, which that's only a small handful of people who are Ray Edwards certified copywriters. And Rusty, am I correct in saying you are also on staff at the Ray Edwards organization? Would that be correct?
Yes, I'm one of their copywriters and coaches right now. Yes.
And you've written copy for organizations as famous as Ziglar Incorporated.
Yeah, and some I can't disclose just because of some of their rules they want to play by. But a lot of the people out there like to white label the copy and say they wrote it. But hey, you got to get in where you fit in. So Ziglar headlines the long list of clients I've had, as well as Chalene Johnson, Cliff Ravenscraft, if you're familiar with any kind of mindset or self-help. He's kind of on the rise, and some other people out there. So it's been exciting.
Well, certainly I'm thankful to have you on the show. Rusty, let's just start with, since you're, who would make your ideal client? I mean, that's something that, I'm interested in, because you have this extensive baseball background, and now you moved over. I'm sure you're a chronic overachiever. That's what happens to people who make the major leagues, right? So who makes Rusty's ideal client?
Well, I think the most important thing when we're talking in terms of copywriting, especially direct response copywriting, is having an understanding of what that is. In a short sense, you're just using words to sell the stuff that you obviously put onto market through the written word. And so many people, I believe, in business understand they need it. They understand kind of what it is, but they're not real sure who to hire or how to apply it themselves, which is why, words can make or break your business in essence. And it's true. You can date it all the way back to the early 1930s when direct mail started to come out. And actually long before then, sales copy was in play. So my ideal client, the short and skinny, is someone that obviously knows what direct response copywriting is. They are already using direct response copywriting. And obviously they're looking for someone to write that with them or for them and apply it to their business to increase their either engagement or, as we call, response to boost their revenue and profits.
Do you find that a lot of the people that you've written for, or those people that you just described, do many of those often have a background in copywriting as well?
No, well, I would say not as a profession. Even our mentor Ray Edwards says everyone's a copywriter. Copy is the keystone of anyone's business, and meaning that if you own a business and you've crafted some kind of message on Facebook, you are doing a podcast, if you've written books, if you've written a magazine article, a blog post, you're a copywriter. Some people don't go by that name by trade. They're just content makers, but words sell. And the fact that the people in my market, the people that I'm looking for, that I kind of elaborated on already, they understand they've probably written some copy at some point because they've had to start from scratch, and they've produced letters of their own or email sequences or any kind of content, a flyer, whether it's just booking a message with maybe your lawyer, your insurance agent, to sell them on the idea you can help them grow their business. Or maybe you're selling online products, or you're sending an email to get someone on your podcast for free content. You've used copywriting in some sense or form in your business. And the people that I particularly have worked with, I would say on a professional standpoint, absolutely not. but in their business at some point in time, they have used copywriting.
So let me back up one step here, Rusty, in the sense of, so how'd you make a transition into copywriting, or did you know about this before? How or why did you get in there? Because just curious, how does people get started?
So when I retired from Major League Baseball, I took about a year off, and I wasn't one of the guys that signed like a $14 million deal and had buttloads of profit to sit and cash out on for the rest of their lives. I made some pretty good money. I stashed it away. I've invested it well. But eventually you've got to either figure out how to multiply that or just get a job you can enjoy and make that stabilize and last as long as you can. And let that compound, obviously, off the small window of time you have to be a professional athlete and make some money on it. So about the time, second year after retirement, my wife, who was providing insurance for me, and my major league insurance had started to expire, she got laid off. She got her business cut and her position cut. It wasn't anything on her side. It was just a company decision. And we had no insurance, and we also really didn't have any income. So I didn't want to obviously just start cashing out all the dollars I had invested and selling options and digging into retirement funds and stuff like that. So I just decided to go get a real job. And luckily for a lot of athletes, there's not a better field to get in and make six figures right away than sales.
Okay.
And a lot of the things most companies or corporate companies do for their sales requires a lot of entertainment, eating, going out for drinks, golfing, hunting, fishing, and a lot of them will pay for that gladly as long as you keep the customers happy. As well as they provide a lot of perks, cars, phones, internet. They pay for some of your bills. So I thought, wow, that's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah.
And so I just jumped in one of the first sales positions that I could find and my buddies recommended. And that was interesting enough in the civil works industry. So a lot of construction, underground utilities, stuff that I looked at, well, this is going to be around forever. So this will be nice and secure. And long story long, I just didn't fit in to corporate America. Now, I didn't really start to realize that until about year 3.
Okay.
At the same time, a lot of good came with the bad. Expense reports, well, that sucks. Well, I also got to go eat steak for, 3 nights and chum it up with a decent person that has the same interest of business that I do, right, or a peer, or maybe it's my boss or whoever. But it was also requiring me to travel a little bit, which I did not like. But once I got into it, with the situation of me starting to have kids and stuff, it's kind of just a necessary means to an end. And I don't want to play the purpose of a soul-sucking corporate job. I mean, some people want that.
That's exactly right.
Nobody on this show, I promise.
and some of those positions provide a lot of prosperity for people that outside of that don't have it. So it's kind of a rock and a hard place type of deal for me, because if you leave, you're on your own and you're a Major League Baseball player. So you either get to go coach or you do something outside of that. You have no idea what you're doing.
Right.
Try to go make a living, or you take the corporate soul sucking piece of cake and just deal with all the crap you don't want to, and make a good paycheck and get lots of perks. Well, in the midst of that, I was presenting to the front of the room to civil engineers. Now, if you've never had a conversation with a civil engineer, they're not all real boring and dry and have no sense of humor and are completely stone walls to sell. They're not all like that, but the majority are. They don't believe anything you say. They don't really want to buy anything. You want to sell them. And quite honestly, they have better things to do with their time than listen to you talk. Well, my job was to book as many presentations that I could and present live from in front of the room, in front of these highly engaged,
that sounds like a load of fun. Yeah. That's a lot of fun, Rusty.
Yeah. So I had to figure out a way to liven up every presentation or keynote I gave after the first one I gave, because if not, I could see this being a long, winding road to misery.
Okay. All right.
Six-figure misery. And so I started to, at the same time, somewhat simultaneously, I know we got like 3 silos going on here at the same time. My wife was starting her business. And she was trying to write this ad to send out to her peeps, you know, whether it be online, or a flyer for a workshop she wanted to put on around the health industry in Oklahoma City, health and wellness, by the way, not like medical. And she was struggling with it, and she goes, "Hey, can you proofread this or help me out with it?" And I put my spin on it. Well, little did I know she was going to have this reviewed by this guy named Ray Edwards through a free bonus she got by buying StoryBrand.
Okay.
At this point in time, I really had no idea what advertising marketing was. I really didn't even know that I was in sales. I thought I was just in a position to go and present this stuff and a placeholder for the company and all the sales guys, because I was really like a product specialist, quote unquote, that didn't know anything about the product. So I'd facilitate that. But then this weird synergy of helping her, and then she went and presented the copy that I helped her with and actually wrote to Ray Edwards. And the report was, she said, "Hey, you got to listen to this. He gave you high praise." Now, she had a way broad understanding of who Ray Edwards was, Donald Miller. I had no clue. So I started to do a little research into this, and lo and behold, my copy was decent, which I didn't know was copy. And she said, "Well, you should maybe start listening to Donald Miller's podcast, the StoryBrand podcast, and Ray Edwards." So I started with StoryBrand, and I started to see that I could liven up my presentations with the StoryBrand framework that Donald Miller was teaching in his classes and in his workshop. Well, my wife had already bought the online course, so I started going through this course, and I was immediately, like, I guess, revved up to go out and upgrade my presentations. Like, I wanted to create some engagement to where, one, I would look good to the company and my job would become a lot more simple. And when my boss and everyone came in, they would actually say, "Man, you really know what you're doing. This is
he's a good presenter. Yeah.
We've never seen anything like this." And by the way, if you've ever been in a corporate job, their sales training usually stink. They do not, in knowing all this stuff, they just go about it. "Hey, this is what we implemented in 1955. It's worked to this point. Look, how can you argue it? We're a 25 million or $1 billion company." But the bottom line is it's not real good. So I decided to be the rogue and go out and do my own sales training and start to position things that I was selling, quote, presenting, in a different fashion. And what happened was I started to become a room. I would light up the room with these engineers. They would become more conversational with me. The lunches were a lot better. And lo and behold, I mean, to my surprise, I actually started selling more of the stuff that I knew nothing about really fast.
Right.
To the point where I was like growing I boost my territory by like 100%. Now, some would say, "Well, that just takes legwork." I did not do a lot of legwork. I just plotted out the bare minimum I need to do and go in and shoot these presentations out in a StoryBrand type of way. And lo and behold, they started getting results.
And can I pause you a second? Because I have a question about it.
Yeah.
Now, am I correct in saying that this is all like right after the economy's crashing and civil engineers are in construction, right? So this is like 2011, the economy had crashed. Is this about that time, Rusty? Or a little after that?
It's a little after that, 2014.
Okay.
I mean, still things were on the rise with the civil industry. There weren't any major bills passed to go ahead and, create this huge infrastructure movement like there is kind of right now. At the same time, civil engineers work on all different levels. There's a lot of them that don't make a ton of money. There's a lot of them that make very good money, that are principals and have been in the game a long time and have their own practice. It's the same thing as we're talking about right now. There's entrepreneurship in civil engineers with civil engineering, and then there's big corporate companies. Same structure. Well, lo and behold, one of the big things that I noticed was I could really turn on the interest and put pressure on the room to get them to commit to giving me approvals before I'd even leave, which takes years for some salespeople in my industry to get. Because like I said, the civil engineers don't really want to be there. They're checking this off on their CE, and they get their bellies full and they go back and probably take a nap while they do a few, designs. But I really started to build some invitations to go golfing and these relationships, and my people in my company just couldn't figure out how this was happening. Well, about this time, I was still helping my wife with some of her copy, and she got pregnant. So her business kind of got delayed a little bit. And, well, here I am, I'm knee deep in story brand. So I get this call out of the blue. Hey, would you like to come and be certified as a story brand copywriter and coach? I'm like, why?
You didn't even know what it was.
No.
You didn't know what it was.
And they were like, hey, we're rolling this new program where you come, we train you for 3 days. You take our model, you take it out to the world, and you help all these business owners. You sell our course, you get a commission. They can hire you as a coach. Here's what we charge. And I was like, wow, I can make an extra 3,500 here, or I could maybe just turn this into a business on my own.
Right.
And at that time, I started listening to Ray Edwards. So simultaneously, I've got this offer. It was an investment. I was thinking, well, I'm almost a year and a half into this corporate America thing. I'm not really digging it. It'd be great if I could just start my own business as like this marketing guru, not even focused on copywriting so much.
Right.
And so I started to get introduced to Ray Edwards. And one day I was out in my gym, which is my garage. I've got some stall mats out there in my little homemade gym. It's a blue collar badass gym. So I don't like to drive to the gym. It takes too long. Get in, get out. And he said something on this podcast. He was talking about the importance of copywriting. And he quoted and he referenced this movie called The Edge, Anthony Hopkins, and I think it's Alec Baldwin.
It is.
And I thought I was the only person in the world that ever seen that movie, not only seen the movie, but thought it was good. And he starts referencing this movie, and he's talking about a time he was in Alaska, and he was kind of in a corporate grind. And he picked up this copywriting book written by Bob Bly, who's a famous copywriter, top 5 in the world probably right now, or has been for a while. And he says, I read the book, I slapped it down on the coffee table I was sitting next to, and I might be paraphrasing here just a little bit, and says, well, I can do that. Because he himself, who was in radio, had already started using copywriting and his sales and marketing skills to hold his position in a dying business, radio, as a disc jockey, as well as sell record labels on giving him or producers him early access to music that he could go out and pump through his station, which was the big deal, right? You heard it first here. That gets you ratings. I was like, well, what the hell? I'm doing the same thing. Well, if he can do it, I mean, he just quoted the freaking movie. Of course I can do it. So here I go. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a copywriter. Well, wait a minute. What does all that entail? So then I start looking at this invitation for StoryBrand. Lo and behold, Ray Edwards is going to certify anyone who comes there as a copywriter. Now, I just want to be full disclosure here. Compared to some of the copywriting certifications, kind of like the one we're putting out with our company, this certification was like Little League, maybe even T-ball, compared to the Major League certification you get over at our new program at Ray Edwards International.
Why don't you take a moment and go ahead and mention that while you're here? I mean, while we're on that subject, tell us a little bit about that program real quick.
Well, real quick, we're putting together a program. It's phenomenal, and it's just rolling out. I think I haven't been to the website just yet to see what is offered to the public, so I don't want to speak too soon, but I can say if you go over and you hop on Ray's email list at rayedwards.com, you could definitely get on the push for this for anyone that wants to turn their business or have a writing business that could lead to 6 figures, create books, understand copywriting for your business. to put it to work to actually increase your sales. Or if maybe, like I said, you're in a position like I was, and you want to find a way out and still make good money as a writer, or in sales. This is a program that we actually are going to take you from the beginning of the year, starting with the fast path to cash, which is email copywriting. We're going to teach you, train you, give you tons of tools to build your skill set and your knowledge base on how to do this, not only effectively as a writer, but as a business owner. So in year 12, if you're still in the membership that long, you should be able to walk away in 2020 with a full understanding, as well as a profitable copywriting business with a certification and a coaching certification from our program that kind of lets you wave the flag. Hey, anyone out there that wants to hire a copywriter, I'm the real deal.
And even if somebody's doesn't want to be a copywriter, but they own their own business, because people would watch our show, they own their own business, this can definitely take their business to the next level, correct?
Absolutely, because most business owners who don't understand copywriting and how it works needs to, because if you have a great product or you have anything to say or sell that actually has value, can help people, and people need it and people want it, you could exponentially raise your bottom line by simply just saying things a different way in a position that gets them to want your product more. I mean, that's what copywriting does. It helps you sell your stuff. So as a business owner, whether you're looking not to get, kicked in the ass by hiring the wrong copywriter and dumping tons of money in a cookie cutter, here's your Domino's pepperoni pizza over and over again, going to a marketing company, you need someone that has the wits and the whereabout of a great understanding of copywriting. If it's not going to be you, you need to hire someone, or probably should consider hiring someone that does. If you want to elevate your business with copywriting, understanding it and knowing the gaps that you have right now in your message and what it could be, the way to carve that out and raise the bar just by understanding how different pieces work in your business, this is the program that can teach you that. And you're learning it from one of the best copywriters alive today. I mean, he's giving you everything he has to show you how to do this, things that I haven't even seen yet. But back to where I was, I literally took on this challenge of copywriting as, like you said, a major league sport. I still wanted to stick to my commitment as, okay, my wife, she needs a piece of copy. I need to know how to do it well. This could generate revenue for our family, as well as I'm still going to be a top producer in my sales and marketing, because I'm going to apply that to my current job. But I'm also going to create this side hustle where I can exponentially increase my revenue and the dollars I make. And I showed up to this training, and the one guy I was there to meet, I had no idea. I'm sitting on this couch in the back room, and Ray Edwards sits right next to me within minutes of when this certification started. And I'm sitting here, and I don't fanboy much. I mean, I played in the big leagues. I've been around some really highly touted professionals, Hall of Famers. So, but for this moment, I was like, this is kind of ironic. So I turned to Ray and I said, I'm a Major League Baseball player, former Major League Baseball player, and I'm trying to become a copywriter, and I think I'm going to work for you someday. And he looked at me, and in his head, he had this expression on his face like, yeah, sure. But what he said was, that's a story I have to hear. Anyways, fast forward to the certification. I spoke to him very briefly. I got a few insights from him, got certified, went out, and a week later, he sold me on the Copywriting Academy, which is basically the sub-layer of what I just kind of told everyone about on this podcast.
Right.
And the offer is, whether you know how to write copy or not, take this course, you'll walk out with the sales letter finished and all your copy written, and it will actually be good where you can use it. And it actually worked because, and I'm not saying that surprisingly, like I had some doubts, but some people that were coming to me from the StoryBrand certification were wanting me to write copy. It wasn't coaching. It wasn't, hey, build my funnel. It wasn't help me with my website. It was, I need help writing this stuff because I don't know what the heck to say. And for you business owners out there, you shouldn't be scared of that. You shouldn't know what to say because you should know your product so well that you're almost too close to it where you need a second set of eyes to help you open up
right
an outside perspective of what people really want to hear you say. because us business owners, even me as a copywriter, writing copy for myself is really, really hard. It's really hard to position yourself persuasively without lots of practice and lots of editing and lots of inputs and research to make it persuasive where people don't see it from your perspective. It's very hard to do. For other products, it's super simple because you have an outside bias to it. But your own stuff, time and time again, people who write their own copy just get stuck inside the bottle and they're trying to read their own label. It happens all the time. So that's why I think, David, it was very good for you to bring that up. Why is it important for us as business owners to have a copywriter or at least some help with our copy? Well, because it's going to expedite your process to getting to the final message that's probably going to work. And during that time, I was writing a lot of business owners copy for products, from Christmas books to the stuff they'd use to market those, to people who are selling online products, widgets, and even their courses. And it just started to scale super, super fast using the training that I got from Ray. And so eventually I broke away from StoryBrand because, well, they wanted me to continue to sell their product simultaneously as kind of like this half salesman affiliate, where I just wanted to sell my own stuff and write copy. And Ray was the fastest path to that. So, business lesson here: hook your wagon to a mentor you can follow and trust that will guide you to the promised land to obviously help you build the revenue and profits you want. And that's what I did. It's the same thing I did in baseball. There were certain coaches that I had to hook my wagon to, who I knew was in it with me, who I knew absolutely had my back no matter what, and who was so generous with their time that if I failed, I knew that they did everything they could do to help me out. And where so many people I see today make a mistake of not picking someone to follow, like a coach or a mentor, is they honestly believe they can get to the top by themselves. If you look around the world today, find me one successful billionaire that didn't have a mentor or a coach. There's not one Hall of Fame hitter that didn't. There's not one MVP basketball player that hasn't. And there's definitely not any NFL players that haven't had a coach that's made it to the Hall of Fame.
You know, it's funny you say that. I want to pause you there. So I don't know if you knew this, but Craig Counsell and I were friends. I was a junior and he was a sophomore. And I can tell you, night and day, I could hit better, throw better, you name it, Craig Counsell. But he hitched his wagon, and his father and Mike Hegan and Mr. Beagler all put him in with the best baseball mentors. And we all know the story behind Craig Counsell. I mean, he went on, become who he is today, a coach of the Brewers. Again, a mentor makes all the difference. And
that's right.
I just wanted to throw that in there. So.
Absolutely. And that's what I decided to do. And there were times where the financial investment, it was a real, just real teeth grinder, where it's like, oh man, I probably shouldn't be investing in this, but hey, I'm all in. And it's just taken me, 2.5 years to basically replace my income, with something I knew nothing about. I probably could have expedited that if I knew what I know now, what we're actually teaching people. If you think 2.5 years to do something your entire life, which is baseball, go into corporate sales, which takes some knowledge and some whereabouts to actually function in, and then pick up a skill of writing within 2.5 years to be making 6 figures plus is pretty remarkable. When the whole time I was just working on it as kind of a side hustle to see what would happen. If I had to go back and do it all again, I mean, what took my business as a copywriter to someone who was just making $25,000, $30,000 a year with mentorship were the action steps that it took me to just basically bust my face up against the wall that didn't work, and then go to that mentor and that coach and say, what do I do now? And then giving me all these ideas and actually applying them. And I'll never forget, I was at a point where the well was kind of drying up. I had a full-time job. I got 2 kids. I got a wife. I'm traveling. There just wasn't time to get any more business. And I couldn't just hang a website up and scream, "Hey, I'm a copywriter. Send me all your work," because that's what some people think will happen. It doesn't work that way. You have to go out and shake hands with people that are looking for copywriters. And it wasn't until I called Ray, who I keep breaking up, my mentor, and he said, "Hey, maybe you should write a letter for someone and send it to them and say, hey, if you like it, use it. If you don't, trash it. No matter what, you owe me nothing." So I took it a step farther. I picked out someone that I felt was having an event that I could write their copy on spec, which was a piece they already had, and hand deliver it to them in a letter and simply say, "Hey, this is for you. I expect nothing else from it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but if I don't hear from you, I'm just glad I got to shake your hand and give you this letter." And it was Cliff Ravenscraft, which just happened to be Ray's best friend, which just happened to be the way that I wanted this all work out, because the only way I knew, by the way, to fulfill my goal, which was to work for Ray or with Ray or to write with Ray, was to give the work to someone who would go to Ray and be like, "This dude, you're not going to believe what he did." Now, this is salesmanship 101.
I was going to say, this is actually really good.
So how do you build rapport with somebody?
Do what he tells you to do. That's what it sounds like to me. Ray gave you some advice and you actually followed it. And you followed it not only on your own, but you followed it with a guy you knew would tell Ray that you followed the advice.
That's right.
That's full circle.
And so I just handed my horn over to Cliff. Now, one thing that I did do is I did a good job. I mean, he came back and said, "I want to use this." So he used it. Now, this is the other thing. Cliff is in the mastermind with Ray. So they're going to see each other in like 3 days.
Yeah.
So this wasn't like some conspiracy. Like, I didn't want to infiltrate. But here's the thing. One of my strategies in Major League Baseball was I knew I had the talent. I knew I could do everything they asked me to do. But how would I differentiate myself from the guys like me who are like 24 and 25 on the roster? How do I actually become a difference maker and also be a game changer for the team? So one strategy that I had 2 times, and it's kind of the same mindset of persuasion, which I didn't know I was mastering in at the time, was to, one, find someone within the organization I could go to, depend on them to work with me, advocate for me, see my hard work, and go to bat for me. That was Matt Williams. For those of you baseball fans out there, he's a Gold Glove third baseman for not only the Arizona Diamondbacks, but the San Francisco Giants, and won a World Series. The other moment, so I would work with Matt all the time in the cage, on the field, extra ground balls. There was no way I would go unnoticed. And the people that actually decided, which Matt Williams is an investor in the team, so he has a say in who makes the team, believe it or not, even not as a head coach or a manager or a part owner. He started to kind of say, "Dude, you're going to kill yourself out here." I was like, "Well, what's worse? Go to AAA, right? I either die or I make the team." And that meant a lot to him. Some people would call that crazy. Maybe that's why I had to retire when I was 31 instead of 35, but hey, whatever. The other side is there was a conversation that I had with our manager where in the beginning of the spring training, he said, this is a even competition. So go get them. That meant, hey, you and 3 other guys are going to compete for the 25th spot. Well, I caught some word through the grapevine that one of the guys who had played on the team last year was getting extra at bats over at the minor league complex while I was sitting on the bench going in the 7th inning on the fields to perform, which is really hard to do, by the way, in spring training. Not only is it really boring as a player, but it's really hard to go in the 7th inning and play anytime, anywhere. But he was over there trying to work himself out of a slump so he'd come and try to make the team because I was kicking his ass, lightly put. That pissed me off. So I just decided, hey, let's have a conversation. AJ Hinch, which, by the way, is a World Series champ and manager of the Houston Astros right now, said, hey, AJ, you got a minute? He said, yeah. I said, hey, I don't really know how else to say this, but since day one, you told me this is a pretty even competition. But to have an even competition, you have to have an even opportunity. So it sounds like my competition is getting an exponentially, I guess, advantageous opportunity to have more at-bats than I do to prove his value to the team. Is that true? He said, I see what you're saying. I said, so do I either need to go do that so I can like side by side with him, or do I just need to keep hitting 330 and lead the team in home runs for spring training? Which do I need to do to make this competition even? And he just looked at me and smiled and said, just keep doing what you're doing. And 2 days later, I was on the team. So I don't know if that was master salesmanship or persuasive conversation, but let all benefits arise to those who want to buy, and for the manipulation and wannabe guru crap, stay to the side for those that don't want to sell anything like that guy was trying to do.
And what I'm seeing here is a pattern, right? So you were a baseball player. How do I differentiate? I got all the talent. I'm going to differentiate myself. You talked about persuasion. You talked about that. You talked about finding a mentor. You talked about asking for what you want from the coach, right? But what'd you do when you got to corporate America? You did the exact same thing. You're in this presentation that's boring in front of these boring engineers, and oh my God, it's going to be the death of me. It's nice and dandy. It's just going to kill me. And you tried to differentiate yourself by using this Don Miller story brand to liven up your presentations. So you differentiated yourself by livening up your presentations, really more for your own sanity, but it ended up doubling your market share or doubling your sales in your territory, right?
That's right.
And then you continue this trend of differentiating yourself to help your wife, right, with her little business, Rotary Cup, which then got you in front of Ray. And then you differentiate yourself in front of Ray by saying something at the event, right, at the Don Miller event.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to add something that you can't possibly know at this point. Because of Rusty's relationship with the Ray Edwards International Organization right now, I can tell you that Ray is putting out the #1 copywriting certification program, bar none, anywhere in the world. And it's partially because of the mindset of Rusty Ryal and being a part of the organization. That same thing you're talking about.
Yeah. It's differentiate. What am I doing?
It's the same mentality, and it's the I can't say it any other way. It's the major league mentality that is going to change copywriting as an industry, in my opinion, because of one guy, and that's why I wanted Rusty on the show today. So.
No, this is good. Let me finish up my train of thought. Was Rusty? Then you end up getting advice from Ray Edwards, and not only did you follow the advice, but you followed the advice from that guy Cliff, who you knew Cliff would get it back to him, which is kind of like talking to the coach, which is kind of like working with Matt back when you're back in baseball, right? Mm-hmm. You knew Ray would find out that you did his advice and took his advice and followed it.
That's right.
Anyway, your whole life is about. How do I say that? Your whole life is about, I got the skill. I call it willing to do what others aren't. There are 3 ways to be successful in life. One of which is willing to do what others aren't. And you're the epitome of that. Willing to do what others aren't to be successful in baseball, willing to do what others aren't to be successful in corporate America, giving your speeches, willing to do what others aren't to improve your own craft that you didn't even know you needed to be, to follow your mentor's advice and you knew it was going to come back. Anyway, I think that's freaking full circle and it's awesome. So sorry.
Well, and I'm sorry this story has taken such a long time, but I think it's important that your listeners, especially business owners out there, understand the place I'm coming from. My #1 objective with this whole copywriting thing, and even as a baseball player, and even as a corporate salesman, was to provide a resource where I was trusted, I was needed, and I could deliver on. Because ultimately, as a business owner, what's the key to sales? You want people to know, like, trust you, right?
Right.
Well, if you think about the professional athletes out there, like the Derek Jeters of the world and the Michael Jordans of the world, I can guarantee you that their coach knew they could do it. They liked the way they went about it. Okay. And they trusted the fact that they could hand them the keys to the car to finish the race at any point in the race. And even as a father and a dad, I think that's the, right here in this household is the most important business that I run. I have to know 100% that my kids and my wife can depend on me to come in the clutch, no matter whether it's good or whether it's bad. I've got to step up. I've got to deliver. And it just translates through everything that I've learned in the process of becoming a copywriter for my copywriting hero, and obviously playing side by side with some of my baseball heroes. I mean, some of the things that I look back on and attribute to perseverance, to grit, to just hard work and blue collar, I guess you could say, the suit you wear and take to the field. It's just, it's a staple that I probably couldn't get away from, but I actually care about the people that I'm delivering for. One of the toughest things that I ever had to deal with in my baseball career is making an error. Why? Because the pitcher's up there working his tail off to get me a ground ball. And here I am, skillet hands for one play. And now he's looking at me like, can't you just field that ball and throw it? It's a lot harder than what it sounds, but the same thing goes with copywriting. Look, anyone out there can learn how to be a copywriter. You probably already are in a sense, but the way that I look at it, my position here, and when David said, am I a game changer in the copywriting world? I might not write a $150 million control yet, but here's what I do know. People right now that I've serviced are making thousands of dollars off of 1,500 words I've wrote. That's it. 1,500 words for thousands of dollars. And if they didn't make any sales off of it, they know what they need to write, and they probably didn't reuse it because, like I said, they got to put their stamp on it because they're business owners. And those that think they can't write, this is the key. The program that I'm involved with right now and I'm helping build has two sides of the fence. One, we're going to teach you how to write and why you need to write. But we're going to actually teach you how to sell that as a skill set. Just the way that, have I sold myself? Probably a little bit. Have I sold my copywriting? Probably a lot. It's just competence in your skill and your craft. And I hope it does change the game in the copywriting world, because I think there's a huge gap and a huge opportunity for business owners out there who just are not aware of the power that they've got in the pencil that's sitting on their desk. I mean, it literally can make you millions of dollars if you use it right.
Perfect. Well, we're over time, and I didn't want to stop, but at the same time, we try to keep the show. So one last question. What's one question you hoped I wouldn't ask you?
My biggest fear. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me, what's the thing I'm most scared of?
Is it spiders?
No, snakes. I hate snakes.
You're an Oklahoma boy. That makes sense. I hate snakes. I hate snakes. So is that really your biggest fear?
That's my biggest fear. I other than obviously the real world stuff, letting your family down and blah, 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 and failure. But no, my biggest fear outside of all the spiritual stuff is just the good old serpent probably creeping around my garage.
Your workout garage right now.
Yeah. Summertime, you gotta watch out.
That's funny. Mine is also snakes, by the way, and bats. I don't know why, but so
because they're ugly.
Yeah, exactly. So on that, Matt, you got anything you want to?
No, this was good stuff, Rusty. I really appreciate it. This was great to get to know you, and great story. Really great story.
So, Rusty, where can our audience find you?
Well, right now I'm focused on obviously my duties at Ray Edwards International, but what'd be really awesome is if you come over and check out rustyryal.com. The website is kind of structured as a copywriting service right now. I'm not taking any clients. I can't, one, because I'm too busy, and two, I'm not for hire. But I really would like to have one come over, listen to some of my podcasts that I've had. I've had some great guests on there. Subscribe, like it. That's kind of my mainstay for my platform, where I'm starting to get into doing some episodes on my own, which I found out is really hard to do unless you are completely just out of time and have no host to have a conversation with. but I'm starting to get better at it. So that's where you can find me, and at Russ Ryal on Instagram. So
good.
Perfect. All right. This was good, Rusty. I really appreciate it, man. This was good stuff.
Matt, where can we find you?
Usually on LinkedIn. So Matt Hudgens on LinkedIn. And then I've got my coaching website, which is 10xprofitblueprint.com. How about you, Mr. Dave?
Find me at davidmulvaney.com. You can connect with me at David Mulvaney on LinkedIn, and you can watch our podcast, ProfitabilityMD.com, as well as connect with us on YouTube. This show will be on YouTube at Profitability MD. Rusty, thank you so much for joining us today. It was awesome.
I'm so glad I got to come on. Thanks, guys.
Good stuff, Rusty. Thanks.
All right, take care.